here's a few more people coming in.
I think we have to go though because we only have 45 minutes. So.
Do you want to explain what we're going to do?
Are you finished introducing?
I'll be saying more about you as we go along.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, Larry and I have the honor of moderating this for a very wonderful panel that we were blessed to have work with us today, and I'm going to introduce them. Kelly Hawley. Wave, Kelly. Ann Rathbun. Howdy. Galen Johnston. And David Reel. And we also are blessed to have one of our favorite residents hiding back in the back there, Rob Anastus, who is sitting in on our session, but maybe he'll have a few things to say to you today as well. So what we're going to do today is ask each of the panelists to tell a little story about their experience in Kissing Tree, and we want to be sure and save little time at the end for you to ask questions. So as you're thinking about things that you want to know from residents, because we will tell you the truth. I promise you that. So if there's anything you want to know and you think maybe you won't hear it from somebody else, you be sure and ask us that before you leave today. And with that, Larry, I'll let you start.
Well, the one thing that is important, David has been here almost as long as we have. We've been here about 7 years. This was the original sales center, and the road that we live on, Sowing Oak, was dirt, and we have seen this place explode, and it has been just great living here. And let me just back up just a little bit, because I think a lot of you are in the same situation we were. We lived in Texas most of our lives. After the kids were gone, the last 20 years of our careers, we moved to New York. We were anxious to get out of New York and get back to Texas. So we built our dream house in Galveston, between Galveston and Houston. And it was a great place. And the neighborhood, we hated it. We loved our house. We loved lots of stuff about it. But the neighborhood wasn't a neighborhood. It was just a bunch of people living on the street, and it wasn't. When we came here, people like David, who's been here just about as long as we have, we all became friends almost instantly. I can't really explain it. Rob is back there. He's been here longer than us. How long have you been here?
October 17.
Wow.
So Larry, when you're talking about us making the move to Kissing Tree, we had only lived in our last neighborhood 2.5 years and built the house of our dreams. And I don't think we wanted to tell each other we really weren't that happy. But one morning we're laying in bed and I'm looking at Facebook and I said, have you ever heard of this place called Kissing Tree? So they were advertising a lot. And he said, yeah, I saw it on the Longhorn Network. And I said, well, we don't have anything to do this weekend. You want to go look? So 2 days later, we were here. The lots were selling like hotcakes. And we wanted a larger house. We didn't want to downsize too much. And the one we wanted, the Bard, which is the largest one they were building, no lots for that. So they said, well, there's a lot for the second biggest one, but we don't have a model. And they showed us the lot. We really liked it. No one could build behind us. And I said, well, take it. And Larry said, don't you want to look at the plans? And I said, no, I don't care. I can just tell it's the right place. So we bought the lot that day. And
wait a minute. So we go up to Wimberley.
That's a story I was going to tell.
So,
after we paid for the lot, we go to Wimberley. Larry said, I want to show you this cute little town. It's so close. And we went into the bar.
So we're there having a margarita, and she's sitting there, and there's a wall behind her with something on it. I said, oh my gosh, turn around and read what that sign says.
Life's too short to live in Houston. And we said, boy, if that wasn't a God wink, I don't know what is. So I think, Larry, we should move on and hear from our esteemed panel. Who would like to start first?
I think the oldest guy.
And so the question for our panel, the first question is, what is something you didn't expect that you've now experienced in Kissing Tree? And you can expound any way you want to. David?
Okay. Moved here in August of 2018 from Canyon Lake. Our forever home, never leave, but my wife had different thoughts and opinions. Much to the chagrin of grandchildren and children that loved the lake, we came here when there weren't too many people here. Living out at the lake, it was kind of a part-time thing for most people because most people, that was a vacation area. So we didn't have a whole lot of people that we interacted with. Got here, and all of a sudden, there were people to interact with. And everybody had a story about how important they were, what they did. Oh my gosh, I mean, it went from astronauts to MDs to lawyers to porno, no, not porno, excuse me. Anyway, after a while, we got to thinking, okay, that's great, who you are, who you were, who are you now? Who are you now? And what we decided is who we are now is we want to have friends. We want to have things that we can do together. We want to have things that make us happy and grateful. And I have run across people here that just blow me away. I am so happy and feel so fortunate that there are people here that I can interact with on a daily basis, and you can pick and choose. There's so much to do here. When we first came in, we tried it all, everything. Pickleball, bocce ball, golf, the swimming pool, all of these things. And we began to pick what we enjoyed. And then we began to pick friends that we enjoyed them with. But every time that I go to an event here, I meet new people. And I have to tell you that it has enriched my life. Now, can I talk a little bit about golf balls or not?
Oh, yes.
Wait, but before,
Yes.
you're not the boss.
Well, there's going to wait. David, you're gonna have another opportunity.
Okay, all right.
Okay, but I want to say something about him. Did you go on the other side of the Veterans
Well, we're
Memorial?
going to talk about
I
that
know
in a
we're going to
minute.
talk about it
Yeah.
more, but what I wanted to say was, without his efforts, it wouldn't exist.
Yeah. You're going to hear more about that in just a minute.
So-
But first, we want to hear from Ann.
Oh,
Come on, Ann.
I never expected to find love of friends, and I never expected to be so entirely exhausted because I've only been here a little less than 2 years, and I'm still in the I'm gonna do everything phase. And so this week I have attended play practice, I have played bocce twice, I have been to the mix to hang out with friends, I have been at Tarbox and Brown, I've had a meeting because I'm in charge of some volunteers for this upcoming golf, blah, 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 blah. So I'm literally dragging home on Friday night like I did when I worked. I still work part-time. I have a side hustle and also a part-time job. So I'm keeping myself more busy than I really wanted to be during this time in my life. I'm gonna fix it because I'm about to fully retire as soon as possible.
Oh, I thought maybe you were going to say you're going to quit some of your clubs here.
No, I'm not
Not
quitting
retire.
golf. I'm quitting the thing that's keeping me in golf balls and
Yes.
All
Keep
right.
the fun
Glad we
stuff.
clarified that.
Yeah.
Keep the fun stuff. Who wants to go next? Kelly?
Well, I came here with my husband kicking and screaming on my heels because he didn't want to live here. He wanted to live like out in off the 46 out there, like in Vintage Oaks. They're out there on a couple acres of property. And I'm like, no, I'm not retiring out to a couple acres of property. But the reason I wanted to move is because my daughter had moved to San Marcos and she was pregnant with twins. And so we lived in San Antonio. And so I wanted to move here to be closer to her. So I thought, well, New Braunfels would be perfect because we lived up off the 10 up near Bernie, and it was like 20 miles from our house to his work, 20 miles from his work to New Braunfels and then 20 miles to my daughter's. So I figured if we moved here, we'd just be 20 miles from his work, but New Braunfels, we would just be 20 miles from his work, but we would still, it would all be the same for him. Well, we looked and we looked and we looked, and there was just nothing in New Braunfels that we liked for some reason. And I think now it was all part of God's plan, but my son-in-law said, well, come look at this kissing tree place. And this was 5 years ago, right during the midst of COVID. So we went and looked at, I came and looked at kissing tree, and I fell in love. But I knew I didn't want him to have to travel to work every day this far. So, but we just couldn't find anything in like a year. And
Excuse me.
Microphone.
Is it?
Maybe the microphone.
no,
It's not
There's
feeding.
a beehive somewhere.
I think I know what it is. I'll be right back. I didn't do it. I think I might know.
it stopped. But anyway, so we.
It's the door, I think, yes.
So I finally brought him here, and he was still wanting to buy property out there. And one day we drove, we'd had a really bad storm, and everybody on those big properties, leaves are all over the ground and everything. There are all these, sons and dads are all out there raking up these leaves, clean. I said, is that really what you want? Because he told me, all those trees take care of themselves. You don't have to do anything. So we went by, and I'm like, those trees don't look like they're taking care of themselves. So he thought, well, you're right. So anyway, stories like that, and all of a sudden he decided maybe he should come look here. So he did. We bought, and we moved here. Now he says it's the best decision he's ever made. Is that right, honey?
All right.
Well, I was going to say that
I'm
also. Good
sorry.
thing my husband's not on the panel, because it would even be worse than this.
Oh,
Nobody else would get a word in edgewise.
oh gosh. Galen.
Well, I think the original question was, did we learn anything when we moved here? But I'll preface that with COVID hit, and we were in the market to move and downsize homes. We moved from Austin, Texas. Kids were all gone. It was the wife and I and 2 little tiny dogs in a big home. So we were looking around Austin. We looked around San Antonio. We have a friend down there in Sonterra, and she says, hey, people from Sonterra neighborhood are moving to Kissing Tree. And so go check it out. Day one, we fell in love, signed the papers, gave them a check. Then we figured out what lot we wanted and everything. But what we learned was it was so easy to make new circles of friends with common interests, same goals in life, to live a good life, be happy. And like David mentioned, we tried everything. Every Tuesday, every Thursday with live music, all the bingo. And then we came on with music bingo. I hardly ever miss a music bingo night. It's like drunken karaoke, with prizes. But I golf, pickleball, we've done bocce, the pool, the gym, tar box and brown, the mix. But the biggest thing is all the new friends that we've made from all over the world, from nearby, from far off, different countries. But it really is all the new friendships. That's what's brought us here and kept us here.
Galen, when we spoke before, I know one of the things you said was in your prior neighborhood, it was all about families and kids, right?
Yeah,
I
I
know
don't
y'all
know
have
how many people know
experienced.
Austin, but we raised kids in Circle C. And, our whole neighborhood was right near the grade school. We were 2 blocks from the grade school, and we all had so much in common. We'd see each other at all the events. So we'd open up the front door, and the kids would go in and out. We didn't know who was in the house, who wasn't. And Kissing Tree is similar to that, other than the difference is it's us, And we don't know who's in the house when I get home, or what house my wife's at when I get home. But we just come and go, and we have a great time. We play cards, dinner parties, little wine here and there. So, but it is very similar. It's just now the focus is us, not raising our kids.
One of the things that happens all the time is Kathy will say she's going to go down and check the mail.
I'll be back in a minute. I'll be back in a minute, 2.5 hours later. I'm home, and he'll say, where have you been? I'm checking the mail. But, I ran into this person, and yeah, that is what it's like here. I think for us, one of the things we had hoped, but we didn't expect, was to have the beauty that we have around us in Kissing Tree. In our last neighborhood, one of the things we didn't like was the developer didn't keep his promises. And they were going to go bankrupt at some point. So we really did study Brookfield before we bought here and knew they had pretty deep pockets. But, I mean, honestly, this is all that was here when we came. Dirt roads everywhere, the bridge and these containers, that was it. And so we really pinch ourselves when we drive around and we say, it is like living in a resort. Or as we call it, Camp Kissing Tree, you know, because you can't ever let yourself forget what it could be, you know. And Brookfield has really kept their promises, and I know you see it as you drive around. I think you're going to take a bus ride, right, and drive around the neighborhood?
Some of them have already.
Already did?
One thing about Brookfield keeping their promises that I wanted to mention, it isn't just promises. David and I played on the original, when they opened the pickleball courts. We played there, and we real quickly realized that we weren't going to have enough pickleball courts because it's such a fun thing to do. Well, so we say to Brookfield, we need more pickleball courts. And the pessimists in the neighborhood, they said, they aren't going to invest millions more. They've already done what they're going to do. Well,
Bless you.
it turns out that, how many courts are there now?
16 now.
Now there's 16.
I'm sorry, 18, you're right.
So
Add
now-
another 10, yeah.
So it is unbelievable. I'm still wondering what made those Canadians decide to make even a greater investment. But they did. And on Thursday, I play now with the men on Thursdays, and it is amazing, just amazing how they've kept up and not just kept their word, kept their promises, but are doing new things. Did you want
And
to-
speaking of Canadians, when this is a segue into the Veterans Plaza.
Yes,
Has anybody
yes.
been to the Veterans Plaza and looked out behind the sales center? If you haven't, it won't take you more than 30 seconds to take a quick look. Larry and I and some others here are members of a veterans group here in Kissing Tree. We got about 170 members now. We went to Brookfield 5 years ago and said we would like to set aside an area within Kissing Tree to honor veterans, both living and deceased. And they thought about it, and they thought about it, and they thought about it. And they gave us prices as to what it would take. To make a long story short, in the summer of 2024, they came to our veterans group and said, we will set aside an area for you to put in bricks to honor veterans, both living and deceased, if you will come up with $110,000. And they sent this back to the veterans group, and we got together, and of course, there was a lot of discussions back and forth as to how awful the Canadians were to make us come up with $110,000. But let me share with you, in October of 2024, we formed a little team within our veterans group. And within 6 months, with the community's help and the city of San Marcos's help, and a lot of other people that we went to and asked to help us, we raised $110,000. And I'll try not to get misty-eyed here, but let me share with you. We went back to Brookfield and I said, okay, we got $110,000. And they said, whoa, we weren't anticipating this. Because they told us if we raised $110,000, they would match it. They would match it so we could build this plaza. Well, they hadn't got around to talking about matching it at that time, so they really didn't have $110,000 yet to match. I said, well, look, we've got people in our community that have stepped up, and they bought bricks. They want to see their loved ones honored, and we need to have a groundbreaking. And so they came back to us after a couple of months and said, okay, we'll continue to work on getting our $110,000. But we had a groundbreaking in July of 2024, and we finished in October of 2025, and that's what's out there. And I have to tell you that it was because of the community support. People that I had never talked with that came in here brand new came by my house and wanted to know how to get a brick order form so they could honor a loved one, past or present. And not only are we honoring veterans, past and present, we are honoring anybody. Anybody that lives here wants to put a brick out there to honor anyone living and deceased. I had a neighbor around the corner from me, from California. She came to me, she said, I want to buy a brick for my deceased son. I lost a little boy when he was 4 years old. He's buried in California, and before we came to California, I used to go there and talk to my little boy. And I can't do that living here, but now I can. And she does, and she does. And we still are selling bricks out there, and that's my story about the Veterans Plaza.
However,
If we need a form.
yeah. However, there is a little more to the story. David he backs up to a golf course. And he goes out and picks balls out of his yard. And if you took the bus ride, maybe you went by David's house. David, tell him about your...
Fast forward, or fast backward to 2020. COVID has hit. All the amenities are shut down. What to do, and I had a lot of golf balls that showed up in my backyard from really good golfers at the time. Really good golfers. So I stuck them out on my driveway in a cart. Got to put a little sign out there. I said, free golf balls. Used golf balls, but they're free. You want to make a donation, all donations go to the Kissing Tree Veterans Group, and we support veterans projects. And since 2020, when that was set up, we have raised over $12,000 from the community, and it goes to wounded warriors, it goes to PTSD survivors, it goes to the junior ROTCs at the high school, and I am certainly violating the HOA rules about having carts sitting out in the driveway. But they have made an exception.
Well, nobody cares. Nobody looks at that. You know, so if you haven't taken the bus ride, maybe you'll go by there, you'll see a flag on it. You can't miss it. If you want to put a donation there, I guess you wouldn't turn that down either, would you, David?
I would not turn it down. And let me just share with you another heartfelt thing here. I'm a veteran of the Vietnam era, as Larry is. When I was in uniform, I wasn't very popular, particularly in this country. A lot of you folks know that. I was spit on, I was cursed. So I put that part of my life behind me and never talked about it. When I came to Kissing Tree, I met other people that went through the same thing, and we have healed. We have healed. We talk about it. We're proud to say that we served in that era, even though it was a very unpopular war. So I just want to share with you, that is one of the other things that living in Kissing Tree has let me do mentally, is heal.
Let me say something.
Okay.
That's focused pretty closely here. Thanks, David. That's nice. But now what we'd like to do is talk a little bit more about, like, why Kissing Tree? What sort of things, the locations, things like Bergstrom Airport now. For goodness sakes, you know, when we lived in Austin, it was still Bergstrom. Now that airport, well, you can take a nonstop to Hawaii now. You can take we just took one to Amsterdam. Nonstop from Austin. Remember when the airport used to be downtown? I mean, it's just amazing what's happening here. San Antonio and Austin are both in the top 10 of travel agents suggesting people are the best places to visit. We're right in the middle of it. This morning, I read that Hilton is building a Waldorf Astoria resort in Fredericksburg. Well, it's just amazing everything that's going on from a location. Do the other panelists want to kick something in on those sorts of?
Anything else?
Well, if you're familiar with the hill country, there's a lot to be seen in the hill country. I know we've had drought and water's down, but Canyon Lake's a great place to be. I used to be a guide at the Canyon Lake Gorge. If you've ever want to get into geology and the history of the Texas hill country, I could talk your legs off, let me tell you. Anything else to share?
There's good trout fishing downstream there as well.
Yes, sir. And the rivers. We've got some of the greatest freshwater rivers in the United States, right here in the Texas Hill Country, with the Guadalupe, the Comal, the San Marcos River, all the way to the Gulf Coast.
When I lived in San Antonio, I had some friends and they would talk about floating the river, and I would be like, aren't you too old? Honestly, I would put
We're not
that
too
out.
old, we've
No.
done it. We've all
I
done
kind
it.
of put that on my back burner some time ago, you know, because my kids were all gone, they weren't home taking me out to look at these kind of things and stuff, but now I look forward to the warm weather so that we can go float the river, and we go in groups.
Yeah, we have a lot
You
of
know?
day trips at Kissing Tree
Yes.
for those kind of
We
things.
actually hire a bus and take everybody out together on the bus.
Well, we touched on this a little, but I want to be sure we give some more time to some of our panelists to talk about what your typical day is like in Kissing Tree. I know you've already named a lot of your activities, Anne, but expound on that a little
I
if
have
you
a
want
dog, and so the very first thing we do is we take our walk, and then, you know, I kind of try to save the mornings for myself, so I do some meditation and play lots of dumb games on my phone, and then there'll be, you know, a period of time where somebody will hit me up and say, let's go to lunch. So that's always a top priority. And then, you know, right now Bocce League is on, and I've never played bocce ball before I moved here, but it is exquisite. It's so fun.
to. Does anybody know what the first rule of bocce ball is?
Yes.
Drink in one hand, bocce ball in
Bocce
the
ball
other.
in the other.
And
You've got it.
It could be iced tea or water.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
it could be.
And after an hour, you switch hands.
And then, right now, I'm involved in the theater troupe here, and so I'm going to play practice a couple of hours every evening, and then, you know, cooking some dinner, having friends in, and then collapsing at the end of the day. And of course, in all that is attention to the dog, and I, like Scott back there, I love to walk, and this place is so walkable. If you love to get your exercise by walking, I never go to the gym. I go into the neighborhood, and there's no such thing as, I'm gonna go walk the dog real quick, because same thing happens. I run into all different people from my little kind of corner of Kissing Tree, and, so that's what I do, yeah.
And if you're into jogging, Rob Antus is a supreme jogger. Follow
Yes, he
him.
is.
Yes.
Yes, he is. Galen, you want to add anything to that? How you spend your typical day?
Typical days. Right now, I worked up until June of last year, so we built the house in 2020, and I commuted back and forth, you know, for 2.5 years. But now the typical day, I still wake up a little early. I start with breakfast, a little bit of the mind with the crossword and whatever else stimulates the mind, and then I typically play golf, or I'll play pickleball. I make time for lunch, whether it's 2 beers or a sandwich, it's lunch. But then in the evenings, it's kind of open. My wife and I have a shared calendar so that each of us knows what we're planning for the other. And we will go to a friend's house to play cards, to eat dinner with them, to do potlucks, or we'll have them over and do similar. So, but yeah, that's a typical day. We do have a lot of events around here. If you enjoy wine, or the wine's sold at discounts, sometimes deep discounts, and we buy way too much, you know. But it does get consumed. That's a good thing. So.
Yes.
And as a recipient of one of his happy hours,
Yeah.
they got it going on. Actually, 2 we've been at
I
together.
think so.
And I would add that I think if you do make the decision to come to Kissing Tree, get involved. It just makes so much difference. I've tried to be on every committee they'll let me be on. I started out by being on the communications committee with Rob back there. It was the first year for the communications committee. There were no communications here at the time. And so we just helped brainstorm things, simple things like a weekly newsletter that would go out and, you know, things like that. I think we made a real difference. And they like hearing from the residents. I mean, that's a great thing about it. I've also been on the restaurant committee. Tarbox and Brown is a very new restaurant here. I guess we're going into our 2nd year. I think it'll be our 2nd birthday in August. So would certainly welcome you to stop by and have a meal there. If you haven't done that before, it's open to the public. And they always love to have a reservation so they can anticipate who's coming. But that was a fun committee to be on. I didn't know much about restaurants, but I like to eat and I like to cook and I have a lot of opinions. So I would say, though, being involved makes a big difference, makes you really happy with where you live, I think.
Look
I
at the
think the
time,
great
Kathy.
thing-
I'm sorry. We're about 15 minutes. We'll open it to questions. I'm sorry.
Yep, go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I think the other thing to go along with that is that you don't have to be afraid of going somewhere for the first time. You know, like, oh, I don't really want to go there. I'm not going to know anybody, because you'll think you knew everybody when you get there. People are
Yes.
so friendly no matter what you go to. I mean, it's just amazing.
So we're gonna open it up for some of your questions. One thing that, I've looked at my notes, one thing we didn't discuss, and there's a reason we didn't discuss it, and that's the security issues. We don't have any, so there's nothing to discuss.
Yeah, we feel pretty safe here, that's for sure. So have you been thinking about your questions for us? Your turn. Yes.
Are you guys happy with the HOA fees and once you get the money?
Well, I think that depends who you ask. We have lived in HOAs before. I'm the daughter of Colonel Flanagan. I love rules. If you don't like rules, you're not going to like an HOA. But we do have an HOA that pays great attention to the covenants. It's the reason when you drive around this community, it looks the way it does, and that makes me happy. And so I think it's important, if you do decide you're interested in Kissing Tree, ask for the HOA document. Read it. It's online. I just talked to the marketing people about this, the salespeople last week, and I said it amazes me how many people will say, well, I didn't know I couldn't plant a garden in my front yard. Well, you know, if you don't want to be in an HOA, Kissing Tree's not the right place for you. But I think the fees are very reasonable. That could be because we paid some condo fees for HOA in New York before we came here. So, you know, maybe it's relative, and it's gone up just very little since we moved here.
Can I say something?
Yes,
I live
please.
in a cottage, and so I pay the master HOA, which gets me great amenities and all that stuff. And since I live in a cottage, I pay an additional fee, which is for them to water my lawn, to mow my lawn, to weed my lawn, and all the things. And they pay the outside water bill for all the lawn watering that goes on. For me, totally worth it. I've mowed way too much grass in my life. I live on 6.5 acres, so that was a lot of grass. And I'm like, I don't need to mow any more grass. I'm complete in that area. So I chose a cottage, and I'm super happy that I pay the extra fee to make all that happen automatically.
Did you have, in the back, there was a question.
No, but I'm thinking, I think you answered it. So if we have a veteran in our family that's passed, we can purchase a brick?
Yes, absolutely. We own the area where the bricks are laid, we've got room for about another 500 bricks. So we got a lot of room.
What's the, because it's a form, right? Say.
Yeah, the form we get at the front desk, and there's two sizes of bricks, 4x8 inch and 8x8 inch. 4x8 inch, you get 3 lines of 15 characters per line. 8x8 inch is 6 lines of 15 characters per line. It's $150 for the 4x8 and $300 for the 8x8.
And when he means the front desk, it's in Independence Hall.
Yep.
There's that window there, and they can give you one. And if you haven't stopped by again, it's kind of behind the Welcome Center. If you just walk behind it, it's just beautiful. Do yourself a favor before you leave.
Where
And,
the bar's at.
yeah, the bar in the Welcome Center.
Say again?
Oh, no.
It's behind the Welcome Center,
Oh,
You're
what?
talking about where
The
the
Veterans Plaza.
the
Oh, I
Veterans
thought you were talking about
Plaza.
where the front desk was. to
No,
get
no,
the
the
form.
Veterans Plaza behind the Welcome Center.
Timeline on when you submit the request, is it just late and you just show up, or do you go
No, it usually now, they have to get 15 orders before they will fill and print the bricks. So it could take anywhere from 1 to 2 months before they get 15 orders, and then they go out and do it all at one time. But let me tell you, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, we have functions out there with the flags and the local ROTC, and it's quite the beautiful event, absolutely.
Yes.
I'm from San Antonio, and, you know, we're on the aquifer. So I just, what is y'all's water situation in San Marcos? Are y'all, is it from Canyon Lake? Is it, reservoir? What
All of
is
the
it?
above.
All of the above?
Yeah, although
It's a mixed thing?
it's a mix. There's some wells here that the golf course uses
Okay.
that's not under the water guidelines.
Okay.
And you'll always find a green golf course, but you may find some brown yards because of the water restrictions. That's just the way it is. But we're on water restrictions right now.
Okay.
And you can only use your sprinkler system certain times of the month.
Yeah.
Although you can water flower beds and trees, but your grass, not so much.
Okay.
Till
I
that's-
know we're once a week in San Antonio. Are y'all once a week? Or
Same.
We're every other week.
Every other week, actually.
Right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this rain has been amazing.
Yeah, hope so.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on the utilities, are y'all, those that live in Austin and San Antonio, is it kind of comparable? All the utilities and stuff like that?
To me, it feels like less than what I paid in Austin.
Okay.
And the water bill is much less than what I paid in Austin,
Okay.
so.
And I came from the Dallas area, and I'm like, what, is there a mistake? Because that's hardly any money at all. So it kind of depends on what market you came from, but
Yeah.
Dallas area to here, minimal, I mean.
Okay.
For us, part of it is our yard is so much smaller than what we had.
Yeah.
So, but depending on your lot, my yard is real small, but my view is immense, so.
A lot of people here choose to xeriscape their yard, so they don't have any grass. You know, it's rock, so.
Oh, you,
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
so that's in the HOAs, because I know some HOAs you can't.
Can hear, yeah, yeah, you can hear.
There's a question over here.
So it sounds like you have lots of different groups, things you can join. We currently live in a community that also has book clubs, wine clubs,
Yes.
55 clusters, but it's almost impossible to join unless you're right there the minute things open up to join.
Can you start your own?
So I'll tell you how it works. If there is what's called an official group of Kissing Tree, like a book club that has filed as an official group with Kissing Tree, you are not allowed to restrict who can come. You can have 500 people there. You don't have a choice. I belong to a book club where we meet in people's homes, and we choose not to have more than a dozen people in it. But it's not an official group of Kissing Tree, and there are both kinds. The things that might be a little harder to get into here are some of the exercise classes. Over time, some other building space may open up that may give us more choices for more times to offer exercise classes. Those are just immensely popular. That being said, I go to yoga. I've never had trouble getting into my yoga class. But, you know, some of that's kind of a slow, exercise class, but some of the Pilates and things like that may be more difficult to get into.
What
But
about like pickleball? Is it just-
plenty of pickleball.
They're not limited.
Anybody here, I guarantee, if you come out on the men, if you come out on a Thursday morning, there will be courts available. You put your rack, there's a rack, you put your paddle in.
Open
and
play.
It's open play, and you can play one game after another, except he gets tired.
I do.
But
I have a cousin who lives in Sun City, and he told me that they can only play when there's a lottery there. I mean, it's really hard to get a court and to be able to play. But I don't play personally, but Larry said he's never had trouble getting a court.
never, and I know that David will probably agree with me. There isn't a problem with somebody who's never played
I play in different groups.
and who's a beginner.
There's always courts.
I don't know how many people you've taught, but
Yeah, in my early days, I was an instructor, a volunteer instructor, and there's always new people trying to learn pickleball. and we go out of our way to make new people feel welcome. Because they're paying an HOA fee just like the rest of us. They're
And-
entitled to use those courts like the rest of us.
And you want them to be safe, so you
Absolutely.
teach
No
the-
backing up and falling down.
Yeah.
I've seen too many accidents. Man, oh man.
I mean, they have like an introduction to pickleball class.
Yeah.
There he is.
Orientation class.
Yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
there he is.
Pickleball
Yeah.
and-
We have a KTPA, which is an organization here that monitors a lot of that, and they do a great job. Absolutely.
So David and Larry talk about the open play. They've got a men's day and a women's day, but I don't play in either of those, but I play in two different groups. So Thursday morning, Sunday morning, I play with one group. There's about 8 or 9 of us usually. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's a group of just guys, and there's never a problem finding open courts. So, and it's people that choose to play together that don't want to do the round robin. You know, we've done the round robin before, but just, it's always available.
And the ladies group is called Pickle Chicks. Guess what the men's group's called?
Pickleball chicks.
Pickle Gentlemen. Pickle Gentlemen.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
So, do you guys ever think about this place reaching its capacity and where you are in that?
You know, it's interesting. We never miss the town hall meetings if we can help it. And in the last one, in every town hall, somebody says, when are you going to build another pool? When are you going to build another building like the Mix? Because we can't all fit in there at one time. And I finally heard the best answer after all of these times we've heard the question. The answer was, nobody ever expected everybody to be in the pool at the same time. But if you go up to the pool on any given day, unless it's right in the middle for grandparents to bring their grandchildren here, any other time, maybe you'll see 6 people at the most. It just hasn't really been a problem. That being said, when there's music at the Mix and it's open for anybody to come, it is crowded. Now, we just most of the time choose not to go to those big events and let some of the new people that have come in do some of that, because we had our fun, you know, in the beginning. But I don't see that happening. And we are at about 1,100 homes, plus or minus a few right now. And so I guess we're about a third built out.
50% almost, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's higher than 1,100 now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
And we're at
max.
1,200.
yep.
Okay, thank you. I hadn't
Yeah.
heard the latest update. Yeah.
I have a question. Speaking of children, what's the deal with children, grandchildren visiting home? I mean,
That's not an issue, and there are pool hours. I think it's typically 11 to 1 or something
Right.
like that for children's pool hours. And we see children and grandchildren all the time, and frankly, we love to see them because I miss that. I'm always sad on Halloween. So I don't ever see, my grandchildren are all grown and I don't get to see the little munchkins anymore.
But there is in the bylaws and in the information you get from Kissing Tree, if I remember right, you could have a grandchild spend several weeks with you in the summertime, but sooner or later they need to go back to school and they got to go. Yeah.
They can't stay over 30 days.
Yeah.
And that's only if somebody complains. So as long as they don't know, I mean,
There's no restriction on how long.
I thought it was 3 months, but I could be wrong. Yeah, that's what I remember reading. Yeah. Yeah.
well, college students,
College students are different.
yeah, they can live with you after they're 18.
After they're 19.
Under 19, if you're over 19, you can live here full time.
Yep. Rob, is there anything that we've talked about that you would like to comment on or add?
You've done so well already. You know, I think one of the things you touched on is important to me is that all these organized groups and clubs and things, but it's also all these just smaller groups that organically grow here in the different neighborhoods. So many things that you won't even find on the website. That lots and lots of neighborhood activities and you know, Friday evening driveway gatherings and stuff. Just everywhere you look. That's one of the neat things about it.
But Rob, one other thing, and that's we have several neighbors that are not doing real well, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know,
Life.
you got lots of nice neighbors to take care of each other.
Really, yeah, really show up for each other whenever.
Yeah, it is really true.
Well, we've kept you, and you probably have another session to get to. So we're here if you want to stay back and talk. Otherwise, thank you for coming. We enjoyed it.